This call is now being recorded.
Namaskar and a very warm good evening to everyone joining us from every corner of the world. Myself, Shauradip Adhikari, on the behalf of Modak Trainer Academy, I am truly delighted to welcome you to tonight's enlightening webinar, Dance in Literature of England and Bengal, 15th to 17th century. Gauriya Nritya is a dance language that marries music, myth, and literature in equal measure. Now, I would like to share a few words with all of you about our today's eminent speaker. What a privilege that our guide through this intellectual journey is Dr. Satabdi Acharya, PhD in dance, MA in English, Government of India Junior Research Fellow and Senior National Scholar of the Department of Culture. For 25 years, she has studied Gauriya Nritya under the legendary Professor Mohua Mukherjee, carrying its delicate footwork and expressive abhinay from Chidambaram Nattanjali in the south to Moscow in the north. She has also written several articles on dance forms of England and Bengal. Her accolades: the State Music Academy Scholarship, Pandit Shubhankar Award, Dr. Manmohan Ghosh Gold Medal, Kala Shudhashree Apurva Pratibha, first prize in the West Bengal State Youth Festival, etc., are not merely honors. They testify to an unwavering mission to revive Bengal's forgotten texts and dances so future generations can inherit this priceless legacy. Tonight, Dr. Acharya will help us to see how a poetic image can blossom into choreography, how a single line from a 16th century English comedy or a Bengali Padaboli can still set hearts dancing today. So, with great respect, I now invite our eminent speaker, Dr. Satabdi Acharya, founder of Bikramshila Dance Institution, to lead us into that enchanted space where quills meet ankle bells, where literature takes flight upon rhythm. Respected Dr. Satabdi Acharya, please start your valuable program. And now the virtual floor is yours. Thank you all.
Namaskar. Good evening to one and all present here. Thank you so much, Mr. Odhikari, for introducing me in this manner. And I generally prefer myself to be called just a student of Gauriya Nritya and nothing more. And I would just like to share with all of you a little bit from my limited knowledge that I have. The topic itself is so very vast. It's impossible to cover everything in an hour. Why an hour? Even a day would be too short. But then I would just try to give all of you a glimpse of what I have researched. And my topic for today is dance in the literature of England and Bengal. Now, why dance? Dance, as you have all already come to know, I am a dancer. And in that case, everybody is a dancer. It's the most ancient dance form that we all know. The moment the four-legged creature started standing on 2 feet, right? That balance, that is dance. So it's the most ancient to human beings. And then you may question why England and Bengal. Okay, what I'm going to do is, I hope I'm clearly audible to everybody. I'm going to share my screen now. If there's any problem, if you cannot hear me, or if there's any question that you need to ask, kindly message in the text box. Okay, then I'll understand if there's a problem. I'm going to share the screen. I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation. I'm also going to show a few videos to make you understand what I'm trying to convey. So I'm just going to share the screen and turn my video off. Just a second. Okay. So why dance? That I've already discussed. Why England and Bengal all of a sudden? Why have I chosen these two countries? Now, nobody can deny, I'm very sure, the connection or bond between India and England has been deeply rooted and holds significant importance in Indian history. During the British colonial period, several British officials played a very important role in preserving and promoting Indian art and culture. For example, Warren Hastings encouraged Sanskrit studies and supported scholars like William Jones. William Jones is the one who founded the Asiatic Society. All of us know that. And Warren Hastings translated key Indian texts. Then Lord Canning promoted art institutions and visual documentation of Indian heritage, very important. While James Prinsep deciphered the Brahmi script, unlocking ancient Indian history. Charles Wilkins translated the Bhagavad Gita and developed Indian printing types. Colin Mackenzie surveyed, preserved valuable records of South Indian heritage, and so on. The list is endless. Institutions like the Indian Museum, the Archaeological Survey of India were established during this time. So it's not only the Britishers. Alongside these efforts, notable Indians like Prince Darukanath Thakur, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Sir Guru Shoday Dotto, etc., actively contributed to the cultural dialogue with Britain. They introduced Indian philosophy, art, and heritage to the West, helping shape London's growing interest in Oriental studies and inspiring museums, exhibitions, and cross-cultural exchange. So nobody can deny this. And the period that I have chosen, 15th to 17th century. Can somebody just unmute and let me know whether my screen that I've shared is visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay,
Video
thank you
is
so much.
perfect.
Okay. This 15th to 17th, I'll also stretch a little to 18th sometimes. The period of European history referred to as the Renaissance, the time of great social and cultural change. It's just the period of time during the European Renaissance fell was the end of Middle Ages and beginning of the modern age. Dance in this period was mainly concentrated in the courts of the princes, who, please note, who had to acquire a high level of personal cultural refinement, which would include not only music, drawing, and poetry, but dance as well. In England, the court dances enjoyed by royalty, nobility, and the upper classes were often imported from Italy, Spain, or France. So there's very little that England can claim as its own, except the country dances. But definitely, they are indebted to Italy, Spain, and France. The Renaissance period in England, also termed as the Elizabethan era, had two distinct divisions of dances. The upper classes, including the royalty, enjoyed new types of dance and music at the court, which was much more polished, and the lower classes enjoyed the more traditional country dances. Just the kind of division we have in our country, we call it folk dance and classical or Shastriya Nritya. So it's like that, courtly dance and country dance. The ballet first appeared in Italian courts in the 16th century and it became popular in France, especially during the reign of Louis XIV. Among the formal dances of the 17th century were the corante, saraband, pavane, minuet, cabot, etc. French dances made their way to England in the 17th century. Now, as we were talking about the Elizabethan era, I would just like to share a very interesting information. Queen Elizabeth was a great dancer, and every day at the court, she would make it a point that the ministers in the court, the people present would at least dance for some time as a warm-up exercise, and then the proceedings of the day would start. That's something very interesting. That was the importance given to dance in those days. Now, popular dances of this period included the Marzuka and Polonaise from Poland, the Sardas from Hungary, the Fandango, Bufero, Seguidilla, and Flamenco from Spain, the Tarantella, the name coming from this dangerous poisonous spider, Tarantella, and Saltarello from Italy, the waltz and galop from Germany, the polka and Scottish from Bohemia, the Highland Fring from Scotland, the hornpipe from England, and the jig from Ireland. These are the few important dance forms of that period, popular rather. Most of what we know about the dance steps and choreographies of mid 16th to mid 17th centuries come from instruction manuals. Now, what are instruction manuals? Something that is very similar to our Shastra, like scriptures, dance scriptures like Natya Shastra, something like that. They call it instruction manuals written by dancing masters. We call them gurus, dancing masters across Europe. Now, what do they contain? They provide dance step description, set choreographies, accompanying music, illustrations, rules of ballroom etiquette. It's very similar to Natya Shastra, if you notice. Ballroom etiquette was also something very important. How the performer should behave, or what kind of behavior they expected from the performer, from the audience, everything. The most famous dancing masters during that period were, first one, this man, Toynot Arbu, 1520 to 1595. He was a French dancing master. The famous dancing manual, instruction manual that he wrote was called Orchesography. It was published in 1588. So orchesography represents dance practices in France from 1550s to 1580s. It is the only French source for this period and also provides a foundation of information for dance practices in other European countries. The text is based on an imaginary discussion between a teacher and his student, eager about social dance style. Again, reminding me of Natya Shastra, which is also in the form of a conversation between teacher-student, social dance style, steps and etiquette, everything is present there. And it's kind of an imaginary discussion on conversation between a teacher and his student. The treatise provides helpful information on gestures showing respect, like the way you bow and other ballroom etiquettes. It also provides information about marching and drumming techniques. Like we have information about the instruments, marching and drumming techniques were very important, and it is especially important for containing valuable discussion on Renaissance rhythms and meter. Certain dance forms described in orthography.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Your slide is not moving. That first one is visible only.
Oh, I've moved on to the third slide. I'll try again.
Okay.
Just a second.
Huh.
Maybe because of the weather, there's some issue. Let's see. Then I'll not make it full screen. I think now it's visible. You can see the second slide on screen, everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this was King Louis XIV of France I was talking about. And next we moved on to this month, Why Not Our View, and we are talking about his book, Orchestrography. It consists of certain dance forms like Branle. Branle is a kind of dance form which is danced in circles by as many couples as desired. I mean, it's as easy as like you have, if you go to Shantiniketan and you see that Santal dance happening, you go and join, everybody can join. So there's no restriction on the number, it's that easy. Couples can go on joining and it continues. Always, the dance always begins by turning sideways to the left. And the meter of the speed is double, triple, then mixed. And the next important one is Galliard. Galliard is a very interesting dance form. I would like to show a small video so that you get an idea. So it's especially for the male dancers because it involves a lot of energy. But later, nowadays you see people, girls also, female dancers also joining in. It was one of the most popular poetry dances because of its vibrance and everything, its energy and everything. And it was often used by great dramatists of that period. And one name definitely comes to our mind, Shakespeare, William Shakespeare. He used it a lot. It involves 5 jumps, changes in 6 beats, and the meter is always triple meter. I'll stop sharing this one and let me try and show you a video. Just let me know if it is not audible. So it goes like this. And, so other than Galliard and the Branle, this particular dance treatise also talks about another very vibrant dance form called Pavan or Pavane. It was basically a processional dance, a ballroom dance like Branle. But the difference is it is to be performed by one single couple, unlike Branle. So it's single and double meter. Next, we move on to this man, Fabrizio Caruso. He wrote the 2 books. First one was called Ballerino in 1581. Second, Dance Manual, Nobiltà dei Dame, was published in 1600. That's more important. Here, Caruso redefines and in some cases corrects the information found in the first book that he had written. The dance manual gives rules for 68 steps and contains specific choreographies for 49 dances. That's amazing, right? It contains the complete choreography for 49 dances. And next dancing master that we are going to talk about today is Cesare Negri. The book that he wrote is called Le Gracie d'Amour. This manual, though being similar in certain aspects to Caruso's work, the previous man's work, contains steps far more difficult and complex. This manual is divided into 3 sections. The first contains details about his professional life as a teacher. Second one explains again Galliard and its different variations. Third one contains definitions of steps and step patterns with 43 choreographies and appropriate music. Okay. Apart from these 3 dance manuals, some other books also influence the existing dance styles of that period. Lawes's Apologie de la Danse, published in France in 1623, marked changes in dance steps that included turnout from hip, 5 feet positions, exercises to enhance bending, like we do warm-up exercises, Anga Sadhana, we have in Gauriya Nritya, it's a part of our Margam. So this one also contained exercises to enhance the body, the flexibility, the agility of the dancer. All these manuals are aimed at elite audience and describe court dances, with the exception of the first one. We were talking about Hoynotar view, orchesography, which is addressed to a middling status audience, which contains a mix of, courtly and rustic or country dance, both. The other 2 only meant for or dedicated to courtly dance. We don't get any technical manuals during the last half of 17th century. But there was one important, I must mention, one important piece of literature, The English Dancing Master, 1651. Why is it important? It is a collection of lower class dances, lower class country dances, like we have folk dances. So it mentions 105 country dances with accompanying music or tunes. The most important ones are mentioned: Branley or Brole, jig, hornpipe, roundel, drum, buffoons, maypole dance, Morris dance. I would have shown videos, but then there's not much time. Apart from these above-mentioned dances that you can see on screen for the common people of the society, there were other country dances also that were, mostly related to the profession that the people were attached to. Just like in our country, we have Dhan Kata Nritya, harvesting dance, etc. They also had similar dance forms: gathering peascods, then hole in the wall, petticoat work, picking up sticks, etc. Now, unfortunately, there are no surviving dancing manuals for the period between Dresler's manuscripts, that's 1500, and John Playford's The English Dancing Master, but 2 French dancing masters wrote dancing manuals, each in early 17th century, dedicated to their English patrons. And I have already discussed the 3 most important ones, the dancing masters. And the other books included choreographic descriptions of group of English professional dancers who danced in a kind of, procession, a long team. It was known as measures or old measures, and it's a very common term you'll find in Shakespearean plays, measures, old measures. These manuals also provide conduct rules, as I had already mentioned. Now, it is almost impossible that we discuss about literature of 15th to 17th century and we do not refer to William Shakespeare. There are definitely his contemporary playwrights or dramatists, but due to the lack of time, I would just touch upon Shakespearean plays a little. Now, did Shakespeare use dance just as a form of entertainment to enhance that entertainment quotient of his play, or is it something more? Now, disorder in the state as a result of conflict in the affairs of those in the authority is the basic action of many Shakespearean plays. But even the tragedies, which deal with the extremes of human suffering, like King Lear, Macbeth, Othello, present a view of life which is optimistic. The idea that order is possible, that harmony can be restored. Closely related to this attitude is his use of dance, both as a part of visual representation on stage and as the content of dialogue. An understanding of dance adds much to an appreciation of many of his plays, and it is indispensable for the proper understanding of certain scenes and passages. If you do have no idea about the dance form that he has used or mentioned in the dialogues, you won't get the true essence of what he had tried to convey. I would give a few examples. In history plays of Shakespeare, dance provides imagery. The dance images are few and at first appear to be isolated, but imagery derived from dance helps to enhance the audience's perception, how they look at the character, situation, theme, everything. At the end of Act 3, Scene 1 of Henry II, Richard, the Duke of York, left above on the stage, ponders on the plotting of his rebellion to be stirred by John Cade, the headstrong Kentishman in Ireland. He says, now look at the dialogue, or listen to the dialogue rather. Have I seen this stubborn Cade oppose himself against a troop of kerns and fought so long till that his thighs and ducts were about like a sharp-quilled parpentive, and in the end being rescued, I have seen him caper upright like a wild Morisco, shaking the bloody darts as he his bells. Now, while introducing me, Mr. Odhikari had referred to anklet bells. Now, it's a very important part of this particular dance form. You can see in the illustration, the dancer, the male dancer, it's a Morris dancer. Morisco, the word refers to this dance form called Morris, the bells. Okay. Now, I'll stop sharing this and I'll just show you a video of Morris dance so that you get an idea and you can feel like we have Guru Shishya Parampara dance tradition. This one is also something ancient. Okay, I shall share my presentation again. And on screen, what you can see is kind of a depiction of Shakespeare's clown wearing a pad of bells below each knee to jingle with him all the way on his famous exploit. Pipe and tabor were the usual instruments, accompanying instruments for the Morris dance at that time. Now, let's move on to one of his comedies, the one most popular for its dance and music, A Midsummer Night's Dream. In this play, he used dance more abundantly than he was ever to do again, as he uses it deliberately to comment on the major pattern of order and disorder in the action and influence them. Different kinds of discords are confirmed and matched in supernatural world. Those who know the story of Midsummer Night's Dream, we know that the main characters are the fairy king and the queen. So the queen Titania describes the foul disturbance of nature which have resulted from her quarrel with the fairy king Oberon. So as we find in many of our Kavi Guru Rabindranath Tagore's writings, how nature reflects the mental condition of the characters, here also we find the same. She leaves no doubt that this rude interruption of her dancing, the king had interrupted while she was dancing with her maids, with her fairies, is a highly important aspect of their dispute. It is said in the play, "Never since the middle summer spring met we on hill, in dale, forest or mead, by paved fountain or by rushy brook, or in the beached margin of the sea, to dance our ringlets to the whistling wind, but with thy brawls thou hast disturbed our sport. Therefore, the winds, piping to us in vain, as in revenge, have sucked up from the sea contagious fogs, which falling in the land hath every pelting river made so proud that they have overborne their continents." Towards the end of the play, Oberon calls for music and says, so when everything ends happily, and it ends with again a dance sequence, the king says, "Come, my queen, take hands with me, and rock the ground whereon the sleepers be, and thou and I are new in amity, and will tomorrow midnight solemnly dance in Duke Theseus's house triumphantly, and bless it to all fair prosperity." So when the dance is used in tragedy, in Shakespearean tragedy, its positive qualities of regularity and control and its association with love, something positive and cosmic harmony, all are used to counter the evil with which it becomes slain. The result is dance brings in irony. Almost always, dance occurs or is referred to in the earlier part of a tragedy before the theme of disorder has gained momentum. In comedy, which would seem to be most natural place for dance, Shakespeare seems to be experimenting to discover how it can be used rather than just as a form of entertainment. So he used it a lot in Midsummer Night's Dream. The other extreme is Love's Labour's Lost, which probably has no actual dancing, but containing more reference to dance than any other play. That's strange, right? So that's Shakespeare. Shakespeare wrote at a level that was at once simpler and embraced a wider vision. He was thus able to use dance as a visual image of harmony and order in the world. And it is a movement towards that harmony, that resolution of disorder, which is essential basis of his piece. Now let's come to Bengal. Let's discuss about the mention of dance in the literature of Bengal of that period. Before we move on to Bengal, what about India? The dance forms practiced in modern India that we see, the classical folk forms, are respected and valued all over the world. The roots of these dance forms are found buried in tradition of that particular place and society, but they have established and re-established themselves time and again in new forms. Now, Natya Shastra, as we all know, something that is also known as the Pancham or the fifth Veda, it mentions 4 pravrittis, Avanti, Panchali, Dakshinakta, and Audra Magadhi. In the 14th chapter, it is mentioned. Gauriya Nritya, or the dance form of Bengal, that has been revived and reconstructed, comes under Odra Magathi Pravritti. The Odra Magathi dance style was widespread. It covered a long region from Bhagalpur district of Bihar, whole of West Bengal, Rajshahi of Bangladesh, Bogura, and adjacent areas of North Bangladesh, Rajmahal Hills of Jharkhand, Birbhum district, Malda, Purulia, Notia, and the adjacent areas. Not only that, Sikkim, Bhutan, Tomluk, South Midnapur, Bakura district. So we understand that Odra Magathi dance style was spread across ancient Bengal, or what we know as Brihad Bengal. Now that was Prabriti region. What about Britti or style of Odra Magathi? The style of Odra Magathi or Britti, it's mentioned in Natya Shastra, it's Bharati and Kaishiki. Now what is Bharati? It refers to the Uchchondo, or the vigorous Tandav, vigorous dance that incorporates dialogues and interactions. Whereas Kaishiki refers to the soft, graceful movements. Lasya Nritya. Different folk dance forms of Bengal that are still there, like Chou, Kirtan, Nachni, Ojha, Gombhira, and the list is endless, reflect these two styles through the polished classical versions. Gauriya Nritya, also we can see these two very evident in classical form Gauriya Nritya as well. A very important piece of literature, Raj Tarangini, composed by Kashmir poet Kalhan, 6th century. We come to know about Bengal's Devdasi Kamala, a beautiful dancer who is portrayed as a classical dancer, dancing according to the rules and techniques of Natya Shastra. As this dance was presented in temple, we can definitely say that Bengal had the tradition of Devdasi's dancing in temples. We can also say that since this dance form was temple-oriented, it had to be soft and graceful dance describing and praising the greatness of the Almighty. Bengal had this rich tradition of Kirtan Nritya since time immemorial, which still survives in rural Bengal. Kirtan is a beautiful blend of Bharati and Kaishiki style, which incorporates both graceful movements and vigorous movements with interactions. And talking about Kirtan, let me mention here the first and most important male dancer of Gauriya Nritya is considered to be none other than Sri Chaitanya Deva. And after Natya Shastra, we have the age of Matanga Muni. In his text, Matanga Muni is Brihadeshi, 5th to 7th century, somewhere in between. We come to know about 7 Gitis or divisions under classical music. What are these? Shuddha, Bhinnaka, Gauri or Gaurika, Sadharani, Bhasa, Vibhasa, and Antara Bhasika. So here also we find reference to Gaurika or Gauri music, right? Classical music. Other than this, Brihadeshi also mentions ragas like Gaur Kaishiki, Gaur Panchama, Gaur Rag. So all these are related to Bengal. And the dance performances on these ragas are also mentioned. So in Bengal, people were not contented just with the creation of good literary works like plays. They tried to enact and stage these great works of art. So this was the reason that compelled great writers to construct different texts and scriptures to codify proper learning of dance and drama. So just like we were discussing those dance manuals by those dancing masters, here also we find something similar being constructed to codify proper learning of dance and drama. I'll mention a few. Apart from Natya Shastra and Brihadeshi that I've already mentioned, we have several eminent authors. Definitely we know about, since you can see Dashavatar on screen, let me mention Geeta Govinda first. The great Sena ruler Lakshman Sen of 12th century had 5 famous court poets, Sharan, Dhoi, Umapati Dhar, Govardhan Acharya, and Jayadeva. They were popularly known as Pancharatna, and the most precious gem of these 5 Ratnas or gems were definitely Sri Jayadeva. He was the most precious one. His creation, Gita Govindam, stands as a strong base for all the classical dance forms of India, not only Gauriya Nritya, definitely. In Bengal, the Satabdi sculptures, they date back to 7th century. Please note, Sri Jayadeva created or composed Gita Govind in 12th century. But Dasavatar sculptures are as ancient and date back to 7th century. Bengal has evidence. 7th century and continues to be found till 18th century. These are the terracotta Dasavatar sculptures that you can see on screen. In this text, Dasavatar gained immense popularity, and the sculptures gained motion in several dance forms, paintings, and whatnot. Sculptures. Gita Govinda has been translated into more than 50 languages all over the world. According to K. Basudev Shastri, he was the editor of Gita Govinda in 1950. He says it is extremely probable that this work was composed by the direct disciples of Sri Jayadeva himself or those after them. The gestures that are found in this work are simple, highly expressive and graceful, and they follow the techniques laid down by Bharata in Natya Shastra. So Bengal had always been so very close to Natya Shastra. Other than Gita Govinda, we have Sangeet Ratnakar, which mentions 5 types of Sangeet or music in the 13th century that was practiced in India: Lat, Karna, Dravir, Andhra, Gaura. So whatever is being referred to as Bengal's school of music, dance, the word Gaur is always there. Then we have Sri Hasto Muktavali and Shongit Damodar, very important dance manuals or dance scriptures composed between 13th to 15th century. 2 most important scriptures of Gauriya Nritya were penned down by the great author from North Bengal, Pandit Shubhankar. We have Natok Chandrika by Sri Rup Goswami. Then we have Ujjwal Nilmani, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. These all are Vaishnav Rasa Shastra. And it talks about the 5 Mukhya Bhakti Ras. The Vaishnav Rasa Shastra Shastrakars, they consider Bhakti Ras to be the main of the rasas, and this particular book or books, they describe about the 5 primary or Mukhya Bhakti Ras and the 7 Gauna or secondary Bhakti Rasa. That's the division. Other than this, we have Radha Krishna Ganodesha Deepika, where Sri Rup Goswami deals with Aharja Vinaya, makeup, costume, jewelry, everything. Ananda Vrindavan Champu, Alankar Kaustubh, different aspects of 10 Kirans are described. Then description of music, instruments, dance, everything is full of that. Gopal Champu, it's a huge volume of 70 chapters, and it's divided into 2 halves. First half consists of Lord Krishna's Vrindavan Leela, and classical description of dance is also present there. So what do we find? That while discussing the journey of Bengal's literature, one can come to the conclusion that dance scriptures had a great influence on literature and the society. This is the reason why description of dance is an integral part of every genre of Bengali literature. Medieval Bengali plays are nothing but a combination of poetry, dance, and music which are presented in front of different gatherings. Ras Nritya, you can see on screen, because we're talking about Vaishnav literature. Again, the Shavata sculptures. Okay. So Bengali plays still give us glimpses of Outu Magadhi tradition, that is the amalgamation of dance, music, song, everything. Source of dance in Bengal can be found in all forms of art and literature. Let's talk about Chorjapad first. I'll just touch upon each. In the 10th Chorja, we find a description of a dome or untouchable lady's dance on 64 petals of a lotus. Ekso Paduma Chausatti Pakuri Tohichori Nacho Domni Bapuri. And there's mention of Nat Petika, where the dons used to keep their costumes, ornaments, everything. And it's full of more such descriptions. Let's move on to be more specific. The two most important branches of Bengali literature are Mangal Kavyas and Vaishnav literature. They are enriched with dance and music. Mangal Kavya is the folk branch of Bengali literature. It belongs to the period between 15th to 18th century in general. Mangal Kavyas can be divided into folk and mythological branches. There are so many Mangal Kavyas: Manisha Mangal, Chandi Mangal, Dharma Mangal, Shiv Mangal, Kalika Mangal, then Abhay Mangal, Shitala Mangal, and you can go on adding to Annoda Mangal. You can go on adding Surya Mangal, so many. So in these Mangal Kavyas, we definitely get detailed description of dance, instruments, different ragas, etc. The most important of, let's first touch upon Dharma Mongol by Manikram. Here we come across a vigorous dance sequence, the dance of Dharmaraj or Shiva at the court of gods. It says, Shuro Majhe Shotru Boshe Sharmoman Chitto Henokale Dharmaraj Arunghila Nritto Dombure Dim 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 Shingaya Sutal Bombu Babambu Baje Ghonogal Shuro Majhe Shorokarjo Sadhite Narayon Notone Uttam Kuila Shoba Karma. So it goes like that. And then now let's move on to what you can see on screen, a Patochitra of Manusha Mongol, the most popular of our Mongol Kavyas. Manusha Mongol mentions Betila, the housewife, who was a great dancer, whose dancing skills could even bring back the life of her dead husband. That strong was the dancer, this lady. She compels gods to fulfill her wishes by pleasing them with her dancing skills. It's not just a story. Now, literature is a mirror of the society. That is what is said. It reflects the thinking of the society of that period. It is mentioned somewhere in Manusha Mongol, Ma Baper Batite Behula Nache Gaye. So when does the training start? She started learning taking training for dance and music when she was very young, before she got married. This Behula represents Bengal's daughter, Bengal's housewife. Another mention of housewife skilled in dancing is Gangonath's daughter-in-law, Bidut Prabhat. She's a character from another piece of literature, Sheikh Shubhodar. So in Bengali literature, we get some female protagonists who are well known for their dancing skills. One is Behula from Manusha Mongol. Then we have Gangonath's daughter-in-law or Joynath's wife, Bidut Prabha. And definitely, we all know about Joydeva's wife, Padmavati, who was a great dancer. Now, these Mangal Kavyas, as I already mentioned, were enriched with the description of dance and music practiced in Bengal at that time. Such an instance of dance in Manusha Mongol is when, first I'll refer to Chondi Mongol. When the life is restored, Manusha Mongol, when the life is restored by goddess Manusha, Shiva dances in ecstasy with Parvati. What is it said? Jagat Mohan Shiver Nach, Songe Nache Shiver Bhut Pishach. Ronge Nehali Gaurir Mukh, Nache Gangadhar Monir Kautu. Hashite Khelite Cholite Rongo, Nondi Mahakal Bajay Mridongo. Please note mention of the instruments. Shibai Nachere Mukete Geet Gahe. Song. Mention of instruments, mention of the song. Hatitali Diye Kim Kore Geet Gahe. Hattali. Maintaining the tal, the laya of this dance. In Bongshidas's Padma Puran, we find the mention of Mridangam as an accompanying instrument. Later, this instrument was used by almost all the classical dance and music throughout India. And not only that, we also come to know about some typical ragas of Bengal like Basant Bahar, Sohai, etc. There's another beautiful description of how Behula dresses herself and prepares to start her performance in front of Lord Shiva. চিত্ররেখা নামেতে উষার প্রিয় সখী, নৃত্যের সাজ গেছে তার কাছে রাখি। সেই সজ্জা দিয়া বেহুলা করিলেক সাজ, বিশ্ব বসু চিত্রসেন দুই বায়েন রাজ। The name of the accompanying instrumentalist that is also mentioned, বিশ্ব বসু চিত্রসেন। তাল টঙ্কারিয়া কইলা মৃদঙ্গে আঘাত, ধ্যান ভাঙি ফিরিয়া বসিল ভোলানাথ। So after this follows a detailed and vivid description of her dance performance. নৃত্য করে বেহুলা সুন্দরী, যত দেব হরষেতে বসি দেখে চারি ভিতে, কটাক্ষে মহিলা সুরপুর। খঞ্জন গমনে জয়ে তালবাত হাতে পায়ে, অলোক শীতে সুতার সঞ্চারে, বায়ু ভরে উভা হইয়া শূন্যে ভরি লইয়া, উলেছে সংকেত তাল ঘরে। অদ্ভুত নাচন দেখে দেবগণ হইলা সুখী, মনে কন্যা করে অনুমান। In Ketagadas Khemananda's Monasamangala, a complete account, or rather a more detailed account of Behula's dance is mentioned. So what do we find in these particular, whatever I have quoted and whatever is mentioned, the mention of dance and music? The Angik Abhinaya, body movements of the dance, Drishti Vedas, types of glances tell us how Behula was no less than a trained classical dancer. This in turn also proves that Bengal had a rich tradition of classical dance since time immemorial. If we compare the Manusha Mongols by 17th century poet Ketagadas Khemananda, Jogjivan, the fact that Behula's dance was a classical dance becomes more evident. You can actually divide it according to the 4 types of abhinayas that we have, Angik, Bachik, Shatrik, Ahari. It mentions everything completely. In Bijagupta's Manusha Mongol, we find Behula dancing with instruments like Mridanga, Mondira. It mentions that her voice is as melodious as a cuckoo bird. She sings songs and utters bols. Okay, the bol for Nritta, N-R-I-T-T-A, Shuddha Nritta. She moves to and fro and takes different kinds of turns, circular movements. In Gauriya Nritta, we call it Bhromori, and it finds mentions throughout scriptures and literature. So while dancing, she takes different circular movements. You can see these circular movements in our famous show dance of Purulia. It's full of that. Her movements and postures are compared to swans and peacocks. It was that beautiful. Again, if you read Bongshidas's Manusha Mongol, we find Behula dancing on very delicate and fragile earthen pots. Now, it's called Shora, earthen pot. Our Gauriya Nritya's invocatory piece or Bandana Nritya is performed on this Mati Shora or earthen pot. And it's also described over there how she uses flying. And from terracotta temples also you see the same evidence. Okay. All right. Here I would like to mention how, Guru Shishya Parampara tradition. I had already mentioned a few names of so many folk dances of Bengal. How Guru Shishya Parampara tradition, if you just look at it, you can still find this particular description as a living tradition that is carried forward. I will just show you a video of Ojha Nritya. It's a religious dance form of the Barak Upattakar Barak Valley. It's completely based on Manusha Mongol. It talks about, just a second, this tale of Manusha Mongol, how Behula had saved her husband's life, revived him. Okay.
আন ফেরাবেন সেই বেহুলার নাচ।
মাগো সরস্বতী চরণ যুগল মাগো, দ্বিতীয় বন্দনা করি গুরুর চরণ মাগো, তৃতীয় বন্দনা করি এগো দন্য দন্য সুন্দরী আইসার আছে দেবাপুরী দন্য দন্য সুন্দরী আইসার আছে দেবাপুরী কি মতে বা আইলা রেখা সর মরি হায় রে।
We are already running short of time, so let me go back. So I'll just mention one more Mongol Kabbo, that's Chondi Mongol. It's full of description of the Aharya Vinaya of the dancer, Naika Ratnamala, and here I'll just mention about the kind of what you call bindi or tilak, or the way you decorate your forehead. Okay, we follow the same in Gaudiya Nritya. কপালে সিঁদুর ফোঁটা প্রভাতে ভানুর ছটা চৌদিকে চন্দন বিন্দু শোভা. So the forehead is compared to the sky, and the red dot in between the eyebrows is the sun. How does it look? As if it's probhate bhanu chota. The sun rays are made with chandon. So we follow the same tradition till date. There are more to be discussed, but then I'll quickly move forward to second branch, that's Vaishnav literature. A special genre of Kirtan, Podaboli Kirtan. Okay, here you can see on screen incorporates Mahajanapadas enacted in the form of a conversation along with Madhura, that is graceful, and Uchchanda, vigorous dances. I had already mentioned while talking about the Britti or style in Natya Shastra, Udramagadi. This is very much evident in Kirtan Nritya. And it's evidence enough to prove. Now, what about the different texts composed? Here, it's not all inclusive. There are more, but then the main ones I have tried to jot down. Pre-Chaitanya, the Chaitanya era, then post-Chaitanya era. The scriptures texts that were composed. It's full of description of dance and music. And Vaishnav literature can be divided into three broad categories: biography, poetry, Vaishnav scriptures, and Padavali. And Vaishnav scriptures are rich in all three components of Sangeet: song, dance, and instruments. In one of the Padavalis, there is this beautiful description of dance. Nachore nachore mor damodar, joto nacho toto dibo khirno nishor. Ami nahi dekhi bacha, nacho arbar, golaye ganthia dibo moni moy har. In another, a dance with chamar or flying whisk is described. Not only the Hindu Vaishnavas, Muslim poets tried their hands in writing Padavalis. That's something interesting. In 17th century, Akbar Shah composed Gaur Pada Tarangini. Here he said, Jiu Jiu Monochor Gora, Apohi Nachoto Apon Roshe Bhara, Khol Kortal Baje Chiki Chikia, Anonde Bhakto Nache Liki Likia. So this was the kind of influence that the Vaishnav Shastrakars had. During the lifetime of Chaitanya Deva, these processional performances or kirtans got linked with drama-based folk art forms of Bengal. That's Jatra. Narayan Bhatto, disciple of the 16th century ascetic Sri Rup and Sanatan, are credited with having established Ban Jatra. So there are several such references. Advaito, the two devotees of Chaitanya who excelled in Padavali songs were Mukundo and Swarup. They used to sing compositions of Chandidas, Vidyapati, Joydev, and soothe their grief-stricken heart of Chaitanya Deva. So this is how Kirtan was injected into the veins of Bengalis. So in Bengal, one can still find the existence of folk dances like Kalikaj, Gombhira, Dhamai, Gonach, Korma, Ocha, Bishohara, Cho, war dances, Thali, Paik, Rai, Vishin. Though many of these are on the verge of extinction, today we can really find the war dances like Dhali, Paik, Ronpa performed in rural Bengal. The temple-oriented classical dance that faded away with the foreign invasions and demolition of temples and religious structures has been revived and reshaped in the middle of 20th century by the great dance scholar, my guru, Professor Mohua Mukherjee. You can see on screen how she depicts sculpture, its representation. In the year 1994, on 10th September, this dance form was renamed as Gauriya Nritya, derived from the ancient names of undivided Bengal, Gaur Bongo. Today, Gauriya Nritya has taken its place as one of the classical dance forms of India and the only classical dance form of Bangladesh. Gauriya Nritya performance brings back to life the dancing sculptures of terracotta temples, dancing on earthen pot, the flower pot in hand and flying whisk in the other, the dance of Behula, the dance of Sri Chaitanya Deva. That's the tradition of Bengal. And what about England? In England, some of the famous folk dances like Morris, sword dance, hornpipe, etc. still survive in the countryside. The rescue work was done by Cecil Sharp to preserve and reconstruct, and this led to the survival of ancient English tradition in song and dance. So what has that resulted in? Today, later there came an attempt to supervise and improve the standards of dance teaching at all levels in Britain. World War I left little time for innovation, but afterwards, a revolution in dance began with the contribution of Black Americans. Broadway, ballroom began to merge, and many new dance forms emerged like rumba, jitterbug, samba, cha-cha-cha, twist, salsa, breakdancing, Broadway, etc. And many of them are still widely practiced worldwide. So, as my research went on, what I had learned from literature, from scripture, from history, from my guru, that lack of patronization returns the dance forms back to it. It never, disappears. It becomes localized and it survives as a folk form in a particular region. But with more and more patronization, what happens? It gets more and more polished and emerges as classical form. So this goes on, and all the classical dance forms of India, all the major dance forms in other countries around the world have similar history. Thank you. That's all I had to share.